With that, I'm delighted to introduce our speaker today, Jeannine Bryant with Changing Spaces, a recent new author and publisher of a new book, and she is an alumni of this program as well, and we're very proud of what she's built. She's got an exciting Lincoln company that's very vibrant, and they do a lot of business. You see their signs all over town, and they provide a wonderful service. With that, Jeannine, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, I have to turn this on. Is there a check, a test? Is it working? Okay. Well, thank you everyone for coming today, for your time and attention. I'm thrilled to be here. First, I have to start off by saying that I give a lot of presentations around town, but usually I'm speaking to people about their stuff and how to let go of their stuff, because I'm in the stuff business. We help folks move and downsize, and we also run estate sales. So, two sides of the same coin. I help people let go of their stuff, and then I try to get other people to buy their stuff. So it's kind of unique. But I give a lot of these presentations about stuff, and that's really my passion. I don't give a lot of presentations talking about the business side of things, so I'm going to have to ask for your grace. This is a little bit of a lesser polished presentation today, but I want to talk about my two businesses, Changing Spaces, and a new venture that I've started this last year, Rightsizing, with the publishing of my book. But I'll tell you a little bit about the companies, but mostly I kind of want to talk about the process of building and growing both of them, because I think that's kind of why we're here. And if you do want to talk about your stuff, I'm happy to do that afterwards. I'll talk about your stuff all day long. I love it. So it was nearly a decade ago that I joined Changing Spaces SRS. The SRS stands for Senior Relocation Services. We help seniors who are downsizing and moving. So our typical client is someone who has lived in their home for 20, 30, 40 years, and they're downsizing. They're going to a retirement community, they're going to a townhome, an apartment, and they're overwhelmed by all their stuff, and they don't know where to start, and they know they can't keep it all, and so we come alongside them, and we hold their hand, we walk them through that whole process, start to finish. I didn't start the company. My former business partner started it in 2008, and then I came aboard in January of 2010. Which is 10 years ago, almost. That's crazy. And it was in 2010 that we entered the SCC incubator. It wasn't called the Focus Suites back then, but it was a great experience for us. It was exactly what we needed, and that's exactly what they did. They incubated us. They kept us warm and safe. And I always say Kat is like my biggest cheerleader. She's like my mom. If I want to just feel better about myself, I just go talk to her. And they're great cheerleaders, but then they were also that business coach that told us things that sometimes we did not want to hear. And I think back now on some of those things that they told us 10 years ago, and I think, they did know what they were talking about. Maybe we should have listened to them even more. It took a couple years for some of that advice to sink in. But we were here from 2010 to 2013. I bought into the business in 2010 along with another gal. So actually there were 4 owners. We each owned 25% of the company. Maybe not something I would recommend, running a business by committee, but that's what we did. And I always say I feel blessed to have been given that opportunity, because quite frankly, I don't know that I would have had the guts to start my own business, but I was brought in to help grow and run the business. And so that's where we were in 2010. We stayed here for 3 years. And then we moved out. After 3 years, they kicked us out. We graduated, and we moved to another office building, 48th and north of Vine, Wilshire Business Suites, which was actually owned by another former tenant here in the incubator, Colleen Meyer-Creekak. She bought the building, remodeled it, turned it into office suites, and we signed a 5-year lease with her. And it kind of gave her the confidence to go out and do that. And we were there for 5 years, and then I moved our offices to South Lincoln, so it's a little bit closer to my house, which makes life a lot easier. In 2014, my former business partners retired and moved out of state. So then I was given the opportunity to buy out their shares and become sole owner. So that was about 5.5 years ago that I took over full ownership of the business. And really ever since we started, we have been blessed to grow each and every year. In 2010, I remember we helped 20 clients. And we were so proud of ourselves. That meant that our phone rang 20 times that first year. I mean, we were so thrilled. And it was a lot of work because back then, of course, we were actually the ones in the homes packing the boxes and doing the work and helping our clients, as well as answering the phone and keeping the calendar and sending the bills and trying to do marketing and everything. And in 2019, by the end of this year, we will have helped 161 clients. So the demand continues to grow for our services, and we've been blessed enough to be able to grow with it to meet that demand. I've got 25 employees now who work with me. It's myself and another gal are full-time. The rest of our team is hourly, part-time. I say it's heavy part-time because many of them work 30 or 40 hours a week. And our services are that we help folks who are moving and downsizing, and then we also run estate sales. So if Steve has lived in his house for 30 years and he decides it's time to move to the legacy, all right, I need some help. So I'm sure that's many years off for you, okay. But if he's overwhelmed by his stuff, the first thing we do is we come in, we measure his furniture, we help him figure out a floor plan of the new place and what furniture is gonna fit in that new place. And then we start sorting through the little stuff, the kitchen cupboards, the closets, the Christmas decorations, what artwork is he gonna hang on the wall. We help him decide all of that. And then we bring all the boxes, we do all the packing. We're not movers, but we arrange for the movers on our client's behalf, and then we're with them on moving day. And then we go with them to the new place and we get them unpacked and organized in the new place as well. And we take all the boxes with us. So that's the moving portion of our business. That generally takes us a week. We get someone downsized and moved and settled. Then we take a deep breath and then we get ourselves settled in the new place. And then we think, okay, back at that old house, what are we gonna do with all that stuff that we didn't keep? Well, we're gonna sell it for you. So that is our estate sales or our tag sales that we run. We do 1 or 2 estate sales every week. We do about 55 a year. We've got 2 this weekend. And I have to give you a plug. I've got flyers here. I'm gonna just pass them out. We've got 2 this weekend. We do 1 or 2 every weekend. They always run Friday and Saturday. You walk into a house and everything has a price tag on it. So that is another service that we offer to our clients. That process takes us a week. We spend Monday through Thursday setting up the sale, and then Friday and Saturday actually running the sale. We sell 75 to 85% of the stuff that's in the house, and then we hook them up with a donation place where they can donate whatever is left. So then the house is empty and ready for the new owners. That's Changing Spaces. Those are the services that we provide. This last year, I found myself in a place where I'd been doing this for 9 years. And I think a good metaphor for a business is it's like you're building a machine, okay, or a robot or something. And you're building this machine and, you know, I still have to push a few buttons and pull some levers, but by and large, we finally got to that point where that machine works pretty well without me. Okay, we're not quite to the point where I can take a month-long vacation tour of Europe and the business continues to run. I'm trying to get there, believe me, but we got to a point where the business was running pretty well, sort of on its own, without a ton of day-to-day involvement from me. I was no longer packing the boxes. I was no longer setting up the estate sales. My awesome team members were doing that. And so then I started to feel a little itchy. And I was here, I don't know how many of you were here a few weeks ago when Sherry Tafoya from Custom Blinds and Design was here. She was talking about, she has a location here in Lincoln, and then she also has a location in Omaha. And I'd asked her, so how did you know when it was time to open up that second location in Omaha? And she said something that was so interesting. She said, it's more fun to build a business than it is to run a business. And I thought, oh, I'd never thought of it before, but that is so true, okay? So Changing Spaces had gotten to a point where it was running pretty well. And I've got, I don't know, 20, 25, 30 years left in my life to work. So I thought, okay, am I just gonna coast and do this same exact thing for the next 20 years and run this business and show up for work every day? And that did not light me on fire. And so I had to think, when you own your own business, you can't just leave and go get some other job, right? So I had to create something else that was gonna kind of light that spark in me. So after doing a lot of soul searching, and I listened to a podcast about how to write an ebook, I thought, okay, I'm gonna do that. One of the reasons I love what I do is because I am really passionate about that right-sizing process. We help people find that perfect place between too much and too little. I always say, you know, if I'm moving Steve to the retirement community, I'm not going to make him give up all the stuff that he loves. I'm going to help him let go of the stuff that doesn't matter so much so that he can keep his most treasured possessions with him. So it's finding that place between too much and too little, and I am passionate about that. I'm interested in it. Even when I'm not working, or even if I wasn't getting paid for it, I think about it, I read about it, I watch videos about it, I listen to podcasts about it. So over the last 10 years, I felt like I had a lot of content in me. Inside my head and then also outside of myself, you know, writing newsletter articles and everything. So I thought, okay, let's put together all of that information into an ebook. That's how I started thinking. Because I thought, well, an ebook, that's not very scary. I didn't really know what would be involved in that, but I thought, well, then I don't have to get copies of my book printed and whatever. So I started writing. And that was a great creative outlet for me. It helped me fill my time because, again, my business didn't necessarily require 40 hours of supervision from me. In fact, my staff probably prefers it when I don't. They don't need me micromanaging, right? They know what they're doing and they're doing a great job. So putting together that ebook at the time was really a great, something that sparked that spark of interest, right? It's like a new puzzle to figure out. How do I do this? So I put together the content for the ebook and I published it on Amazon. I don't know how to do any of this. I just Googled things. Amazon has something that's called KDP. What is it? Kindle Direct Publishing. They make it very easy to help you format your ebook. And after I did that, I quickly realized that it's not so much of a leap to go from an ebook to a paperback or a print version. So Amazon also does that for you. And so that's the route that I went. I am a do-it-yourselfer. I didn't necessarily want to pay a publisher to help me figure all of this out. And it's all kind of an experiment, right? The goal of this was not to help me pay my bills. My bread and butter comes from changing spaces. And so this is just sort of a new puzzle I was trying to figure out. So through KDP, I was also able to do a paperback version. And so my book is available on Amazon. Let me hold it up for you. It's called Ready to Rightsize. And you know, just like in your business, probably you get the same 25 questions over and over and over again. And so for the last 10 years, I've gotten the same 25 questions. These are my answers to those 25 questions. It is not a long book. It's a short book that you can read in 60 to 90 minutes. But it's really meant to be a guidebook or a handbook, really practical, tactical tips to help make someone's transition a whole lot easier and more efficient. So we went through the process of making it into a paperback version as well. I had to figure out, how do we design a cover? Ashley Erks, who works with me, she does my marketing and operations, and she is a creative genius. She's very creative and she's great at graphic design. So she and I worked together to make the cover, which was nice. And then I hired an outside contractor to help me with editing. And then you upload all of this and you hit publish. And when someone buys it on Amazon, Amazon prints the book and ships it to them. So I didn't have to buy, 1,000 copies of it and store them in my garage and try to, sell them. Amazon prints them on demand. Now I can also order author copies from Amazon and sell them myself if I want. If you're interested in the numbers, I've got them. I had to look them up because I'm not great with numbers. The ebook is on sale for $2.99, and as the author, I get to keep 70% of that. Amazon keeps 30%. The paperback version, and you can set your own prices, and again, that was just a Google search that I did to try to figure out, what am I going to price this book at? The paperback is $12.95, and I get to keep 60% of that, minus the cost of printing, which is about $2. The third option is that I can order author copies myself, which are about $2, $2.50, something like that, and then I can sell them myself. So I earn the most money if I sell this book directly to you. But of course, when you look at the numbers, the most books I've sold by far have been on Amazon. They've been the paperback version, not the ebook. I've sold some ebooks, but mostly it's been paperback on Amazon, because of course they have the nationwide or the worldwide platform to sell those items. So I should mention that I submitted it to the Library of Congress to the Copyright Office. So that was an important step. And then I thought about, okay, so this scratched an itch. That was fun. Okay, and writing. I should also say writing a book and selling a book, two totally different things. But I thought, okay, I want to do more than just this. I said jokingly to my husband, who's right here, the other night, how can my 5th book be a raving success unless I write the other 4 first, right? So I thought, this isn't the only thing I want to do. I don't really know what I all want to do, but I know I want options, okay? And I think as entrepreneurs, that's kind of what we all want. We all want that freedom and those options. So I decided to create a brand around the book, and that brand is Easy Rightsizing. And the plan is the easyrightsizing.com. It's a website. My husband helped me create that. But it's a brand under which this and all future books about the right-sizing process can sit. It's also where I've written I have a blog, and I write a couple blog articles each month, and then I also do YouTube videos. Because again, it's something that I'm passionate about. I still love that process of right-sizing, and I really love getting down into the nuts and bolts of, all right, let's tackle your kitchen. How much of your kitchen stuff are you moving with you? And I think that kind of information lends itself really well to videos, and that's something that I enjoy doing. So I've got YouTube videos on there. And then when I publish the rest of my books, they're all going to be under this same umbrella as well. So I'm going to pass out a bookmark for all of you that advertises my website. I encourage you, or if you have older adults in your family, to get them to check it out. Something that I'm doing, this whole side business is really, I'm just creating content. I don't know how many of you were here when the Commonwealth podcast guy was here, but you know what I'm doing is not so different from what he's doing. He's just creating content, and then he's hoping to monetize it someday. That's all I'm doing too. And again, the pressure is sort of off because this is not putting food on my table, but hopefully someday it will. And I don't necessarily know what the rest of the path looks like, but I'm noodling around and I'm having a whole lot of fun doing it because again, it's another puzzle that I'm trying to figure out. A decade ago when I was sitting in this office over here, we didn't know necessarily how we were gonna make any money doing changing spaces either. But over the last 10 years, we've tried to figure that out, and boy, I hope in 10 years I'll be raking it in with this as well. Talking about the numbers, I do have the data from Amazon. It was published in May, and then I have it through October. They're about a month behind in getting you the data. In those 6 months from Amazon, I've made about $1,500 selling the book. So if that were to continue and we were to double that for a year, that's $3,000 a year. I tell you, when I started this business, this little side project, maybe it's not a business yet, but I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if I had $10,000 of passive income a year? So that's my goal. I don't know if that's possible. And it's not really passive, is it? But it's interesting. And it's another branch. It doesn't involve employing people and dealing with people. It's just me being creative in my own space and thinking about a topic that I'm really passionate about. So I think that's all I'm going to say. I was worried that I was going to ramble on forever, but hopefully I haven't. I do have, I'm also going to pass out a copy of our brochure just so that you have it, and it lists out all of our services inside, and then there's a beautiful team picture of my team inside. You can see I've got the best team in Lincoln, and they are the reason that I even had the freedom to explore a side project like this. So I'm very grateful for them. And then of course I do have copies of my book here. If you would like to purchase one, I'd be happy to sell one to you. I can take credit cards or checks. But I would love to open it up to questions and discussion that anyone might have. Yes,
So
Linda.
you're doing YouTube videos. Who's doing your videos?
Mr. Bryant right there. Well, so I hit record, I record them, and then he edits them. And so that's another thing, and that's kind of scratching an itch that, I mean, he had as well. Neither one of us knew how to do that, so that is something that we're both learning how to do. And what is the software that you use?
Yeah, put me on the spot.
Yeah, sorry.
Start with an M. I don't remember.
Okay.
We found some software. It's relatively cheap. It's very simple.
Oh, so we did pay for it.
Yes.
But not very
it's
much.
Like $60.
Yeah.
It allows me to edit the videos and put some music in and do the creative stuff. I'm sure not nearly as good as accomplished.
Right.
But yeah, it's been fun.
And that is something I have been blessed with talented people around me, and I've been able to tap them to help me with those kind of things. I never would have been able to, for instance, design the cover of the book myself, or editing the videos. That's a technical thing that I probably wouldn't have had the patience for, and it requires a lot of, my husband is very detail oriented, and so it's been great. He doesn't maybe necessarily have the creative genius behind it, but something that I always tell myself, and I've had to tell myself throughout this process, is that you cannot let perfect be the enemy of good. Nothing that we put out there, including our videos, are perfect or anywhere near. But again, how can I be a YouTube star in 10 years unless I start today, right? And get those 9 years of learning out of the way. Not that I want to be a YouTube star, that is not my goal. Although I have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they would probably think that was amazing if I became a YouTube star.
Talk about hiring your employees. I know a lot of people, when they get to that position of growth, it feels scary and nervous. Talk about how you did that.
Well, so I'm not great with change. It's ironic, changing spaces. I am a pretty conservative business owner, I think. I'm pretty cheap, and I resist change as long as I can. And so unfortunately, that's what we did. We resisted it until it became simply too painful to not hire some help. We were completely burned out, and we just got to a point where we thought, I can't do this anymore, we gotta hire some people. Which is not a great strategy, because then you're sort of, when you wait too long, you're hiring out of desperation, and that is when you end up hiring any warm body who shows up. So I try to be better about that, and I am very, as I'm sure all of you are, you're very protective of your company, because your company is your reputation. People don't necessarily, I don't expect them to know my name, but they might know, oh, there's that Changing Spaces lady when they see me in the grocery store. And if I hired some bozo 6 months ago who is not representing me well, that's gonna affect their perception of me. So I try to be very careful. Dave Ramsey says, hire slow, fire quickly. So I try to hire pretty slowly. I try to go with my gut. We have certainly not been perfect. When I look back on the employees that perhaps were not great hires, I always say it's like dating. Think to myself, okay, why wasn't that employee a great hire? Okay, if you break up with some guy, think, why wasn't that a good guy to be dating? And then that helps you go into the next hiring process a little bit smarter. So.
Kind of building on what Kat asked, when you start a business and you don't have employees, and all of a sudden you start hiring employees, you need to have other systems in place. Things like policies, maybe a employee manual, etc. Can you tell us about how you had to build your systems in order for the company to grow?
I think I wrote my employee manual after I bought out my business partners, so that was at least 2014. So we went a while without one. That's also not something I would necessarily suggest. I would say having an employee manual makes onboarding employees so much easier. And I was talking with you about our vision, mission, and values. We also articulated those about 5 years into the business. That has been a very helpful tool in us setting the culture of our of our business and when onboarding new employees. Sorry, what was your question?
About how you build your system.
How you build your systems, yeah. So we started with hiring people to help us pack the boxes. Okay, that's one of the main things we do in our business is we pack boxes. So we were just bringing someone alongside, and we worked alongside them, and we showed them this is how we pack. I think back in the day there was a really basic online training that we had our employees watch. And then we have a certain way how we pack our boxes. And that has been hard earned over time. When stuff breaks, again, we do a post-mortem on it, and we think, okay, why did this thing break? And what should we do in the future? And what kind of material should we be using? So we worked alongside them packing the boxes. And I still remember when I had the realization that my employees could handle a day at the client's house without myself or one of my other owners there. That blew my mind, and it was such a great realization because, okay, I'm gonna go to the office and get some work done. You guys stay here and you pack the living room, and then I'll touch base with you later. That was such a great feeling. And we just stair-stepped it. We have been grassroots from the beginning. We've never had any debt in our business, and so when we have some money, then we hire out. And in the beginning, the only way we would take home a paycheck is if we were there in the client's homes charging for our time. So then for a while, honestly, our paychecks went down a little bit because we were paying our employees, and then we would only get sort of whatever was left over. So it took a while to get to a point where, okay, we are providing an awesome service, helping people in Lincoln, and guess what? I'm actually making some money. You know, it took us a while to get to that point.
How do you do pricing? Everybody wants to know, how do I price stuff?
Yeah. You know, Tim Matan, if any of you guys know him, he was I think he was the only business coach. I don't know if you gals were officially business coaches. Brooke was, okay. He told us 10 years ago that we should do package pricing. And we said, Tim, that's crazy. And we argued with him. Well, about a year and a half ago, I finally went to package pricing. It turns out he knew what he was talking about after all. It's only through trial and error. When we started, we were charging $25 an hour, which is nothing. And then we would just keep raising it. It probably took us too long, but we just reached a point of frustration where at the end of the year, we thought, okay, we have been working our butts off, and boy, I only made not very much money this year. And so then we would continue to raise it, and we just kind of see how much can we raise it, and our phone still keeps ringing. And then this last year, my husband helped me. I'm constantly trying to analyze the numbers and figure out how can we make this more profitable, because when you're more profitable, you just have more breathing space, right? And everything gets better when you have a little bit more margin. You can pay your people more and they're happier. And he's helped me really, first of all, get organized. That was the first thing, and we weren't organized, quite frankly, with our finances for a few years, and it's kind of a miracle that we survived. But you got to get organized. It's just like if you're doing a personal budget. You have to figure out where your money's going and where it's coming from, and then you have to see how those two things line up. And it was easy for us to say, okay, well, I'm going to pay my employee $10 an hour, and I'm going to charge $25 an hour, so that gives me $15, per hour to pay everything else. Well. And that's really how we started. But you have to take into account there's more than just the labor costs, right? So, and as we've grown, boy, my overhead has really kind of exploded in the last couple of years, which sucks. But that is just, that's the cost of doing business. So my insurance has gone way up, my rent has gone up, our supplies, all of that kind of stuff has grown. So I have to make sure that I can still cover all of those expenses. So then we did go to package pricing a year and a half ago. And again, I remember I had an experience where I'd sent someone an estimate because based on the amount of time I thought it was gonna take to move him. And our girls are so awesome and efficient, and he agreed to it, he hired us. Our girls are so awesome and efficient, they came in way under the estimate. So his bill was way lower than the price that he'd already agreed to. And I thought, oh, that sucks. We just did the job really quickly. He shouldn't have to pay less for that. He should have to pay more. If you were to hire Steve to help you pack up your dining room, or if you were to hire me to help you pack up your dining room, guarantee you it would take Steve a lot longer to do it. But should you pay him more? No, you should pay me more because I'm more experienced, right? And I'll do a better job of it. So there's this thing on Facebook that says, what is it? You don't owe me, so if I come and do a job in 30 minutes, like a plumber or a handyman, you don't owe me for those 30 minutes. You owe me for the 15 years of experience it took me to get there to do that job in 15 minutes. So, that's a long answer. Yes, Jolie?
So at one point or another, no matter where you live, you need to move or downsize.
Yes.
Do you ever expect to broaden your territory?
Mm-hmm. That's what Bridge to Better Living is doing, I believe. Yes. So when I was having this, sort of come to Jesus moment in the last year, thinking, all right, well, this is working well. Am I going to do this for the next 20 years, or what's the new puzzle? Sort of what a lot of companies do is they expand. They open up a second branch, or they franchise, or whatever. And so for a while, that is kind of what I thought. I thought, okay, well, I've done this, check. I guess I'll go to Omaha now and do that. And so for a while, that is kind of something that I was playing around with. And boy, if anyone here is interested in opening a senior move management company, Omaha is a ripe market. There are companies in Omaha who do what we do, but they don't do it the way we do it and with the intensity and regularity that we do it. And there's a lot more money to be made in Omaha, so go ahead and do that, because I had to come to the realization that I wasn't going to do that. And that was kind of a hard thing for me, because it does seem like sort of the next step that you're supposed to take on your entrepreneurship journey is, after one location's up and running, let's open another one. And I remember I had a phone conversation with, it was actually a friend's dad who owns a big store. I'm not gonna give away his name, but he owns a retail location that has locations in several states. And he and I were having this phone conversation, and he was talking about what is involved in opening a second location. We weren't necessarily talking about franchising, but opening a second location. And he said to me, you know, Jeannine, you could do that and you'd end up with 2 times or 3 times the amount of work. And you might end up with 2 times the amount of money, but you have to really decide for yourself if that's worth it. And for me, maybe I'm not ambitious enough, but for me it wasn't worth it to have the double the amount of work. And I know if you structure it right, it's not supposed to be double the amount of work, but the line that I always use is, I've got 2 little kids, and I would get really excited about this idea of an Omaha location, and then someone would get an ear infection, and I would think, okay, I can hardly run my business. How am I going to run a second location? And as my kids are older now, you know, life is a lot easier. You know, it's a lot easier now than when they're little kids, but I just don't think that I wanted to extend the amount of time necessary to open up a second location. And so I needed to scratch that itch another way, and I felt like doing this would give me more time and more flexibility and freedom than opening a second location would. And that flexibility and freedom, let's be honest, that's why we're all doing this, right? Who wants to show up to work for some dude, you know, every day, you know, 40 hours a week? No one wants to do that. We all want more freedom and flexibility. That's why we own our own businesses, so.
One more question.
Have you talked to sponsorships about on your blog or whatnot, like the moving company you use or something
Right.
like that they can come in and pay you for?
Right? Yeah, no, not yet. And we even do for Changing Spaces, I send out a newsletter 4 times a year. And I've even toyed with the idea of maybe I should sell, because we send out, I don't know, maybe 500 of those. And I've thought about, you know, maybe I should sell ads in that newsletter. I don't know. The answer is no, I haven't yet. Maybe someday I will. You know, I think monetizing a blog and a YouTube channel is pretty hard. I saw something again on Facebook that said, show up every day for 2 years with expecting no results. And I think it was in relation to building a blog. And I thought, well, that's good advice. Because when you're creating content and you're hoping to someday monetize it, the first thing you have to do is get a lot of people interested in what you're doing. You have to get a lot of followers. And so I guess that's what I'm doing for now.
Okay, thank you so much, Jeannine.
Yes, thank you.
As a thank you, we'd like to give you some stuff.
Thank you. I promise not to sell it. I'll keep it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't want to see this on an estate sale.
Yeah, you won't.
Here's our very own Coca
Thank you.
Sweet mug. And
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everybody, for showing up here today. Remember, we have one more coffee next week with James Terry as our speaker. So hopefully we'll see you all next week. Hang around as long as you like. There's no need to run off. You can network, mingle with others, come up and ask Jeannine more questions, buy a book. But there's no need to run off. You're welcome to hang around as long as you like. And if you're not getting our email newsletter, please give me your business card before you leave, and I will add you to our email list. Thanks for being here. And I want to buy both of them before you leave, so I'm going to go down and get my phone.
Okay.